Welcome students. Today we are going to discuss a new chapter from your civics book, that is your working of the institution. Students, in a democratic setup, the people elect their leaders, the leaders form the government takes different decisions, implement different policies and programs of the government. But we people never knows how the government takes all this decision, how the government implements all these decisions. We never knows about it. Today, in this chapter, we will discuss how the government takes the decision, how these decisions are implemented, and what happens to this decision when it is implemented. Sometimes we have seen some decisions are accepted by the people, sometimes people are going against it. And what happened when the people are going against it? All these things we are going to discuss in this chapter. But before going to this topic, that is how the government works, how the government implement the decisions, there is a beautiful example in your book, or you can say the chapter starts with an example, that is what called office memorandum. Now you see what we are going to discuss in this class today, that is about the office memorandum, Mandal Commission, opposition against the Mandal Commission. All these things we are going to discuss about in today's class. As I have told you, there is a beautiful story in the beginning through which we people will know how the government works and what are the different institutions which are working in a country. Generally, in a democratic system, there are different institutions involved. And what these institutions are, how these institutions performs in a democratic setup, all we are going to know from this beautiful example. That is, the example starts with an office memorandum. Now, on August 13, 1990, the government of India issued an order. On the day of 13th August 1990, the government of India issued an order, that is what called as office memorandum. This is the order of the government and it is known as office memorandum. Now, what that office memorandum is? Like every orders, as it is issued by the government, it had a number and it is known by OM dot number 36012/31/90 EST in bracket SCT dated 13 August 1990. This is the order and this order is having a number. Any order issued by the government is having its own number. Now, you see, this is the order that is issued by the government of India. This is the image that has been taken out. Now, who issued that order? The Joint Secretary, an officer in the Department of Personnel and Training in the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension, signed the order. The Joint Secretary, who belongs to this particular department, the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension, signed the order. And you just see, it is just barely one page. It is very short, barely of one page only. But what is there in that order? It just looks like a ordinary circular or notice that you might have seen in your school also. Sometimes different notices are also issued by the authority of the school, and it is issued and signed by the authority also, and we have seen all these notices in their notice board in our school campus. So like that, the government also issues hundreds of order every day, but on different matters and having different number. And this order, though the government issues many orders every day, still this order is an important order. And it has become a source of controversy for several years. This order, though the government passed different orders, still it is one of the most important order in the history of India, because it became a source of controversy for several years. Now, what that order? This order announced a major policy decision. The order which was issued by the government announced a major policy decision taken by the government of India. What that major policy? The policy was that it is said 27% of the vacancies in civil post and services under the government of India are reserved for the socially and educationally backward classes, which is also known as SEBC. Now, after this, 27% of the jobs under the government of India will be reserved for SEBC. What is that SEBC? Socially and educationally backward classes. A new class emerged after this order. That is socially and educationally backward classes, and 27% of jobs will be reserved for them. Now, what that SEBC? It is another name for all those people who belong to castes that are considered backward by the government. The people, those who are coming under the SEBC, they belongs to those castes which are considered backward by the government. And the people who belongs to this category, SEBC category, they will get the benefit of job reservation. As you know, prior to this, job reservation was available to the people who belongs to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes category. But after this policy, which was issued in the form of the order, now a separate community except SC and ST, that is SEBC, also will avail the facility. That is 27% of reservation in the job sector. Okay? But others could not compete for these jobs. That will be specially reserved for SEBC. Now you see, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and for SEBC, jobs are reserved. And no one can compete for this post, for these jobs which are coming under this category. Looking into this, during that period of time, advertisement has come in the paper, newspaper, that is from Amul, no reservation for this quota. Another, that is also by Amul, reserved for this outstanding butter classic. These two images shows the importance of reservation, specifically designed or made by the agencies to highlight reservation issues. Now, as we have discussed the memorandum, now we'll know who decides this to issue the memorandum. Because as you know, such a big decisions could not have been taken by the person who have signed it. Just up to this part, we have known that Joint Secretary has signed the order. But are you thinking that such a big decision have been taken by this person who has signed the order? No, this is not happened. A person who is coming under the Joint Secretary category cannot have taken this decision personally. The officers had just implemented the instruction given by the Minister of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension, under which this officer coming. Just he has implemented the order given by the ministers of that particular department, that is Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension, and he is there to issue the order only. Now, just imagine how this major decision has been taken. Who are the people involved in this matter? Now we'll discuss about this, because as you have told you, such a big decisions cannot be taken by a person of joint secretary level. There must be some people involved in this matter. Let us discuss who are those people involved in this decision making process. Now, the office memorandum was the culmination of a long chain of events. It has not been taken by one person in one day. It is a long process. How it is a long process? The government of India had appointed the second backward commission in 1979. A commission was appointed by the government of India in the year 1979, and it was headed by B.P. Mandal. B.P. Mandal, Vidyeshwari Prasad Mandal, who was an active politician of India during that period of time. Prior to this, he was the Chief Minister of Bihar also, the 7th Chief Minister of Bihar, and he headed this commission. He was the chairman of this commission. That is why it is also called as Mandal Commission, because B.P. Mandal was the chairman of this commission. You see the image, B.P. Mandal, Vidyeshwari Prasad Mandal, he was the chairman of the Mandal Commission. Now, what that commission was, why this commission was appointed, what was the matter involved in this, now we'll discuss. This commission was appointed and asked to determine the criteria to identify the socially and educationally backward classes in India and recommend steps to be taken for their advancement. Particularly, this commission was asked to find out the criteria, how the people who belongs to socially and educationally backward classes will be identified. And after that also, after identify these people, what steps should be taken for their development, for their upliftment, you can say for their advancement. This was the task given to this committee, given to this commission headed by B.P. Mandal. Now, after preparing the criteria to identify the people who belongs to socially and educationally backward classes, after that, the commission gave its report in 1980. The commission prepared the report, how to identify people who belongs to socially and educationally backward classes, and after, in the year 1980, after 1 year, the commission submitted the report and also with recommendation. Now, what is the recommendation? One of these recommendation was that 27% of government jobs be reserved for socially and educationally backward classes. The commission, after identifying the people who are coming under the socially and educationally backward classes, gave its report with the recommendation, and recommendation was that 27% of the jobs will be reserved for the people who are coming under the socially and educationally backward classes. After that, the report and recommendation both were discussed in the parliament. Now you see, which people are involved in this decision making process, what are the institutions are involved in this process, we will know everything with this discussion about the example, that is of his memorandum. Now, the report was tabled in the parliament, discussed in the parliament. One by one, all the members gave concerns, some raised their voice also. Discussion means what? Both in the support or both in the against also. Members, those who were present there in the parliament, discuss about the policies. That is what the report of the Mandal Commission. Now you see, BP Mandal submitting the report of the Mandal Commission to the then President Gyani Joyal Singh. After that, for several years, many parliamentarians and parties kept demanding the implementation of the Commission's recommendation. Though the Commission submitted its reports in 1980, though the Parliament discussed about the recommendation in the year 1980 in the Parliament, but this policy was not implemented during that period of time. For several years, many parliamentarians, many political parties raised their voice, demanded for the implementation of the Mandal Commission's recommendation. But no government was doing so. Then the Lok Sabha election came in the year 1989. You see, from 1980 to the period of 1989, no government had implemented the recommendation of the Mandal Commission. It was discussed in the parliament, it was over. Next election came in the year 1989, and in this election, the Janata Dal, in its election manifesto, promised to the people that if voted to power, it would implement the Mandal Commission report. Every political party during the time of election prepared the manifesto, what you can say agenda. Agenda consists of different policies and program what the government is going to implement after coming to power. Every political party, those who are contesting in the election, they are having some agenda. That is what political term called manifesto. And it consists of different policies and program what the government want to do after coming to power. Like that, in that year, 1989 election, Janata Dal in its political manifesto promised that if the Janata Dal will come to power, then it will implement the report of the Mandal Commission. This was promised by the Janata Party in its election manifesto in the year 1989. As a result of this, large number of people voted in, and result of that, Janata Dal came to power. Now you see what happened. Janata Dal formed the government, and Vishwanath Pratap Singh, its leader of Janata Dal, Vishwanath Pratap Singh, became the Prime Minister of India. See, this is Vishwanath Pratap Singh, the image of Vishwanath Pratap Singh, who became the Prime Minister of India from the Janata Party. After that, several developments took place when BP Singh became the Prime Minister. What happened now? The President, in his address to the Parliament, announced the intention of the government to implement the recommendation of the Mandal Commission. After every general election, the President addressed the Parliament. And in the first address, President cleared the intention of the government to implement the report or the recommendation of the Mandal Commission. Now you see, earlier we have discussed about the Parliament. Now we are getting about Prime Minister and President. You see, who are the people involved in this decision-making process? One by one, we are getting Parliament, then Prime Minister, now it is President. President, in his address to the Parliament, clear the intention of the government to implement the report of the Mandal Commission. Now what happened after that? On 6th August 1990, the Union Cabinet took a formal decisions to implement the recommendation. All the decisions of the government is passed, made by the Cabinet. That is how on 6th August 1990, Cabinet passed the decision to implement the recommendation of the Mandal Commission. Next day, Vishwanath Pratap Singh, BP Singh, the Prime Minister of India, informed the Parliament about this decision through a statement in both the houses of Parliament. Before implementing the decision, the government has to inform the Parliament. That is how BP Singh, the then Prime Minister, informed both the House, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Parliament is consist of two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. You see, another part of this decision-making process came. So he informed both the houses of the Parliament, and the decision of the Cabinet was sent to the Department of Personnel and Training. After informing the Parliament, the decision sent to the department, particularly which is authorized to issue the order. That is what we have discussed about the Ministry of Department of Personnel and Training, Public Grievances and Pension. And the senior officers of the department drafted an order, whatever according to the decision of the Cabinet, and took the minister's approval. Now you see, ministers came. President, Parliament, Prime Minister, Minister concerned. So the ministers signed the approval. After that, the senior officers prepared the draft of the order. Now, under the Department of Public Grievances and Pension, an officers, that is what Joint Secretary, signed the order on behalf of the Union Cabinet, on behalf of the Union Government, and this was the order of O.M. number 36012/31/90 and was born on August 13, 1990. This was the office memorandum. Students, we got to know how many people are involved in this decision-making process. Now, what happened after that? You see, once the decisions of implementing the order of the Mandal Commission, recommendation of the Mandal Commission was issued, then what happened? For the next few months, this was the most hotly debated issue in the country, because prior to this, reservation was only given to the people of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes category. Now, a new category, that is SC, BC, will avail that facility. So, this was a matter of discussion throughout the country. Many newspaper, magazines were full of different articles about the recommendation of the Mandal Commission. And people, they have given their opinion in this newspaper and also magazines. And result of that, there was a widespread protest throughout the country, and some of them were violent also, because there are some section of the society who were against it. That is why it led to protest, and some of these protests were violent also. People reacted strongly because this decision affected thousands of job opportunity, and some of the people, they felt that this will lead to inequalities among the people of different caste in India. Because prior to this, two communities were getting, now third community has got. And what about the others? And because you know, no one can compete for this post who are coming under this category. It will solely reserved for the people of SEBC only. So this will lead to inequalities. And that is why widespread protest held throughout the country. And some of the protests were violent also. Others felt that this was an unfair, as it would deny equality of opportunity to those who didn't belong to backward communities. People, those who are coming under this category, they will get these facilities. What about the people, those who are not coming under this category? It will deny the opportunity to those categories of people who are not coming under the backward categories or backward communities. And even if this order, this policy of the government will deny jobs even though people are more qualified than them also. People, even if they are qualified, still they will not get their job. Because this 27% of the reservation will be availed by the people who coming under the SC/BC category. That is why there was widespread protest inside the country. And some of the people, they felt that this would perpetuate caste feelings among people and hamper national unity also. Definitely, as some sort of categories of people who are getting reservation, this will lead to caste feelings among the people. And sometimes, if situation arises, it may lead to national unity and integrity of the nation also. Now, this leads to disputes. Throughout the country, people started raising their voice against the implementation of the Mandal Commission. Then what about that? Disputes. Now, who will resolve the disputes? You know, in our country, Supreme Court and High Courts are there to settle disputes whenever it is arises out of the governmental decision. When any dispute arises about the decision-making process of the government, then two institutions are authorized to deal with that. That is High Courts and Supreme Court. Now you see, many organizations came. First, Parliament, President, Prime Minister, Ministers, then Supreme Court and High Court. So, what happened after that? How the disputes resolved? Some persons, associations opposed this order and filed a number of cases in the court. In different part of the country, people who were raising their voice against the implementation of the report, they filed cases in the court. Even if many organizations also who were going against this implementation also filed cases in the court. And they appealed the court to declare this order invalid and to stop its implementation. The association and the people, those who had filed the cases in the court, they appealed to the court that this order to be declared invalid and also stop this implementation of the recommendation of Mandal Commission. Now, it was not the cases filed by one person or one association. Throughout the country, several associations were there, many people are there, those who have filed cases against the implementation of the Mandal Commission. Now, the same cases filed by the people, by the association throughout the country. As a result of this, what did the Supreme Court do? The Supreme Court of India bunched all these cases together. Those who were filed against the implementation of the Mandal Commission. It was bunched together and the Supreme Court started hearing about the case. And particularly, this case was known as Indira Savane and others, because I have told you, several associations and persons have filed cases against the implementation of the Mandal Commission report. That is why this case came to be known as Indira Savane and others versus Union of India, that is central government. 11 judges of the Supreme Court heard the arguments of both the sides. Both the sides means from the side of the government of India and the people who have filed the cases against the implementation of the Mandal Commission's recommendation. So both the sides arguments were there in the Supreme Court and it was heard by 11 judges of the Supreme Court. After that, by majority, 11 judges were there. By majority, the Supreme Court judges in 1992 declared that this order of the Government of India was valid. Whatever the order was issued or whatever the recommendation was implemented by the Government of India was valid. It was declared by the Supreme Court judges by majority. 11 judges were there. Majority of judges were in favor of the decisions which was taken by the Government of India, and it was finally decided by the Supreme Court of India, and it was valid. At the same time, though the Supreme Court has declared that order was valid, still the Supreme Court asked the government to modify its original order. The order was valid. Still the Supreme Court asked the government to modify its original order. What to modify it? Earlier it was people who are coming under the socially and educationally backward classes. They will avail this job reservation. But now, according to the order of the Supreme Court, the people, particularly the well-to-do person among the backward classes, should be excluded from getting the benefit of reservation. Though it was meant for the socially and educationally backward classes, you can say for the backward classes, still people, those who are well-to-do category, they will be excluded from getting the reservation, even if they are coming under the SCBC category. This was the order of the Supreme Court to modify the original order. The original order will be given for all category, all the people of SCBC category. But now, those who are well-to-do category, they will not avail this benefit of reservation. This was the judgment declared by the Supreme Court of India. After that, according to the order of the Supreme Court, the Department of Personnel and Training issued another office memorandum on September 8, 1993. The first order was in the year 1990, now it is 1993. As a result of this, the disputes came to an end and the policy has been followed since then in our country. Now, students, through this example, we have seen there are various institutions, various people are involved in the decision-making process. Generally, a democratic system works with the help of different political institutions. As you know, there are three organs of the government, that is legislature, executive and judiciary. The work of the legislature is to make law, that is the legislative organ. The work of the executive is to execute the law or implement the law. The work of the judiciary is to uphold the law, protect the people, protect the constitution and protect the fundamental rights of the citizen. And we have seen in this example, all these institutions are involved. The legislative organs functions through legislative institution, that is your parliament, consists of both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Executive organ function through the help of the executive institution like your president, prime minister, council of ministers. Then your judiciary organ that functions with the help of the judiciary institution, that is your Supreme Court and High Court. And we have seen in these cases, all the three organs of the government, or the three institutions are government involved in this case. That is parliament, legislative organ that is your prime minister, president, council of ministers, and judiciary, that is your Supreme Court and High Court. So, with the help of this institution, a democratic government works in a country. This is what we have got from the discussion about the office memorandum. Okay. Now, I will ask some questions about what we have discussed today to test your knowledge. That is, the first question is, what is SEBC? SEBC. SEBC stands for Socially and Educationally Backward Classes. That is another name for all those who belongs to the caste that are considered backward by the government. The next question is, mention the institutions which take major decisions and its implementation in a country. The institution which take major decision in its implementation in a country are legislature, executive and judiciary. The last question, who was the chairman of Mandal Commission? B.P. Mandal, Vindeshwari Prasad Mandal was the chairman of Mandal Commission. Students, today we have discussed how the different decisions are taken by the government and how it is implemented and which are the institutions involved in the implementation of the decision taken by the government. Next class, we will discuss about these institutions individually or one by one, and we will see how these democratic institutions work in a country. Thank you.